Hey everybody, it's Cameron, and I wanted to talk about two very important words that are kind of guiding our world at the moment, and maybe always have been, I suppose, but that's safety and security. Um, I remember, I was in high school when 9/11 happened, and I remember the propaganda at the time was just impulsing everybody with this fear of terrorism, of like, you're gonna be attacked, you're gonna be on a plane, or you're gonna be somewhere and it's gonna blow up or whatever. And because the elite were able to impulse with that, they were able to push through things like the Patriot Act, and um, which led to, as far as I understand, a lot of the whole surveillance stuff that was revealed, under Obama. And now I'm seeing that they're pushing things even more now, because of COVID. I saw something recently. I haven't really looked too much into it, but just an example. Something like with the IRS, they're pushing some kind of thing where the IRS will be able to basically look into people's bank accounts and look at the details of it, like with no resistance. They can just go right in and look at it. And that's in the U.S. You look at what's happening in Australia, and it's insane there. The level to which people are obviously accepting this, but the level to which people are allowing themselves to be totally controlled and locked down just because they're afraid. And I know there's a percentage of people who aren't, to a certain degree, afraid. They're like, fuck that, I'm not going to be afraid of some virus or whatever, and they don't want to go along with things. But it's the elite have a plan, they have an agenda, and it doesn't involve everyone's maximal freedom. And they know that the average person doesn't want freedom. They just want safety and security. That's why those words are being used right now, to impulse everybody with that secret desire that they have, the secret fear. Desire and fear are the same thing. You fear, losing your life, so you desire security and safety. But there's common sense, which is, if you're about to walk off a cliff, you stop and you don't walk off it. Just because you're free doesn't mean you just do things that are stupid. You don't go, okay, I'm just going to walk right off a cliff because I'm free, I can do anything. You're not free from consequence. But you would assess the situation within common sense and say, if I walk off this cliff, do I want the consequence of falling off the cliff and probably dying or getting seriously injured? And when you look at what's going on right now, it's obviously a scam. I mean, everyone knows this. Everyone, I say, who's paying attention, and a lot of people, I think, who are saying it's not but actually know it is, but they're paid to say it's not, or they have an interest in saying it's not. You know exactly what I'm talking about. People pretend that they want freedom. They say they want freedom. What they really want is the feeling of freedom, but they don't want the responsibility that goes with it. And I made a video on this, I think it was the last video I uploaded. What's your relationship toward freedom? People just want the feeling of freedom. And this is, I think, probably the major issue that that we have always faced as not just human beings, but beings in existence. Here come my birds, my little small flock of guineas and chickens. I think they're coming to either chirp at me or they're just walking by. I guess you could call them free range. I mean, they run around most of the day. At night we lock them up in the chicken coop, and we just leave the door to the run open so they have some space there at night as well, but they mostly just stay on their roosting bars. But yeah, they're just running off over there. It's funny because sometimes like they'll all run off, and one of them staying behind to like get some food, and then like they don't know where they are, so they'll sit there and they'll chirp, and then the other ones will chirp, and like they're trying to like find each other. It's so funny. So anyways, there's one of my chickens just standing there. You can't see him obviously, but He's running off back to find those 2 guineas that are left in the coop. This whole point of freedom, the feeling of freedom, but not wanting the responsibility. What I see is that it's not a judgment like, oh, some people just don't want the responsibility of freedom. It's not a judgment like there's just people like that. When I say they don't want the responsibility, what I mean is they don't know how to take responsibility, so therefore they don't want it. Because when you know how to do something, what I've found is that it's common sense, not even what I found, like it's just true. And obviously I found it, but it's like when you know how to do something, you want to do it. When you know how to do something well, when you know everything about something, you want to do it more. It's like, I have a shop back there, which I'm in the process of renovating, I suppose. When we got it, it's kind of bare bones, and so now I'm getting a bunch of stuff done in there. I'm gonna get a dust collection system for the tools because it will get really dusty, and I'm gonna get it insulated, and I'm gonna get new lights put in, and I think what I'm gonna do is put plywood on all the walls and then paint it white. I think that would look really cool. Maybe even on the ceiling too. We'll see. I don't know what's possible. So I'm still learning, right? But I'm doing more woodworking in there, and I built. I wish I had it out here. It's behind me. It's in the shop, but I built a little bench for the pond over there. I'm gonna build a few of them, like a 5-foot bench. I got a couple of benches over here that I built with backs on them that Katie's put cushions on that I stained sort of like a reddish brown color. I built the workbench, which is pretty cool, and I'm just starting to build more and more. Oh, I'm building the 2 beds for our 2 and our 4, 3 and our 5-year-old. I say 2 and 4 because they're still technically 2 and 4, but they'll be 3 and 5 in October. It's pretty soon here. And the more I learn about it, the more I want to do it. And it's obviously fun getting all the tools and all that kind of stuff too. But developing this property for all of our distributors, the more I learn how to do all that, the more I learn what's possible, the more I want to do it. Can you hear those guineas? Hey. Hey, I'm trying to make a video. Yeah, see, so I don't know if you guys realize this, but Techno Tutor works for guineas as well, for any kind of fowl, so they can understand English. It's pretty cool. See, communication, right? When you communicate, the other person can understand you, and then they can potentially work with you on something. And I think I know what's happening here. I think they are trying to go in the barn, in the shop, and they want to poop in there. But I will just have to deal with the consequence because I forgot to put the gates back up. So, the problem is, if you don't have the vocabulary, you won't even know what you're missing in a lot of ways. And when I said earlier that the elite know that people desire safety and security over freedom, they just want the feeling of freedom. Because most people have jobs. Like, if you have a job that you go 9 to 5 and it's not something, like I could understand if, to a certain degree, I can understand like if you were really, you just loved architecture and you like building things. And so you worked at a firm. Well, see, but even then, like, I would just maybe do that temporarily, but then I would go and start my own company. I wouldn't stay in a job. I wouldn't work for somebody else. That's why everything we do, we set everything up so everybody who works with us, they work with us. Like, they're not working for us, they're working with us. And we develop and automate systems so people don't have to do the menial stuff. But in any case, people are sitting in jobs, which means they're just wanting that paycheck. And when you have a job and you there's like a limit to what you can make in terms of money and so forth. So you don't really think expansively. You just think in terms of what you can afford. And therefore your whole life is like that. It's all about what can I get within the limits of my job, basically. I mean, what you do on the weekends. You can't just go, you know what? I want to take the family to Florida for 3 weeks. Right now. Let's go. You can't, because you're in a job. And how did you end up in that job? Well, you ended up in that job because you spent at least 12 years of your life in a school which was designed to mold you, shape you, influence you, brainwash you to get a job. And why did you go to school? Because your parents didn't know how to educate you. It's so funny now, because now that we're showing, like, we have real tangible results. You know, in the beginning, when my son, who's my oldest child, was like 1 or 2, it's like, okay, cool, he can, like, he knows his alphabet, like, he can read some words, okay, that's kind of cool, you know. But now he's not even 5, and he can do basic algebra. He knows his times table. Doesn't know all of them yet, he's still learning them, but, like, he can tell you, like, times 3, this times 3, this times 3, this times 4, this times 2. And he just will randomly come up to us, and, like, he makes little games where, like, okay, the other day we went and we did this gemstone mining at, like, this little place in town where it's like you get a little tray and it's like a little waterfall thing, and you, like, put the bag of dirt in there and you shake it, and then you get some gemstones. They come out of the dirt because it washes them up. It's fun. He likes it. And he brought those gemstones home, and they have, like, a little card that shows what each one could potentially be. So he was, like, matching them up, like, this one's an amethyst, this one's pyrite, this one's calcite, whatever. He just put them all on there. And then he came up to me and he was like, Cameron, come over here. He was like, okay. And he had put some of them in the incorrect place on purpose, right? And he goes, you have to figure out if they're in the right place or not. So I went to pick it up to check. And he goes, no. You have to answer a question first, and then you get to check. So it's like he was going to ask me on this one whether it was the right one. But before I could see what was under it, I had to answer a math question. So he was like, what is 2 times 3, right? And if I got it right, then he would pick it up. If I got it wrong, or no, actually, that's not correct. What he would do is he would say 2 times 3 is 6. And I would say, yes. And if it was a yes answer, he would pick it up and I could look. If it was a no answer, I couldn't pick it up. So he would sometimes give me on purpose the wrong answer. So I would say no, and he'd be like, oh, can't pick it up yet. And then I'd have to go, and he'd have to give me another question, right? So he already knew the answers to the questions. And like, I posted about this one thing that happened, and then another, and then it kind of happened again last night as well, where he goes, if I had, I forget what it was we were talking about. I'm just gonna say cookies, because I don't think it was cookies, but it was something like that. I think it was peas or something. He was like, if I had 2 peas and you took away 3, how many would I have? And I was like, well, how would that work? Because obviously I'm knowing you wouldn't have enough to take away. And he goes, well, I would just have -1 peas. And I was like, oh yes, of course. So, right? He just knew that. And then, like, last night, that was like a couple days ago, last night, we were doing something, and I think he was just asking random math questions. And he said, you know, what's this plus this? What's this plus this? And we were just going through it, and I was kind of saying it just absentmindedly without actually thinking about I was just answering it kind of from rote. And he said, what's 2 minus 3? And I go, 1, because I was just hearing 3 minus 2, right? It's a mistake. But he as soon as I said 1, he goes, what's 2 minus 3? I said 1, and he goes, like, he was like, He's like, are you sure? And I was like, what did you say? He said 2 minus 3, and I said, oh. I go, what is it? He goes, -1, right? And it's like, he's 4.5, and I know it's easy for people who haven't observed and followed what we're doing to kind of just assume, like, oh, well, he's just really smart or something, right? But you don't really understand the level. It's like a natural intelligence, meaning, see, now I just sounded like I just agreed with the point. can I explain it? It's not a fluke. It's not an accident. It's not a surprise. It's natural from the perspective of that all the foundation points were laid in properly. So it just comes from that. It's a natural intelligence. Natural doesn't mean he's born with it. Natural means it comes from him naturally because he has the understanding of all the words that are the base understanding of, or foundation of the things he's talking about and thinking about and doing. And I would implore you, if there's any point where you're like, hey, this is pretty interesting what you're talking about with what you're doing with your children, just go back and look at my Facebook timeline, go back and look at all my videos on YouTube and look and see, like we've been saying, this is what's gonna happen at a certain point. And it's not an accident. And then with my daughter, it's the same thing. You see the same thing. It's just, she's still in that very young phase. She's now almost 3, so you're starting to see it a lot more. But it's just, I don't even really post that much of her because it's just like literally a repeat of what our son did, you know? And it's not because I'm not glad or proud. And I mean, honestly, I don't really participate in those things anyways, but I'm just saying it's not because I place more value on Max versus Seneca. It's just, maybe you don't see me post as much because to us, it's almost like we just take it for granted now because, yeah, we did it with Max, we do it with Seneca, and then we see it, and she reads, and she can do basic math, you know, just at the same timeline that he could. She's not where he's at now, but she will be when she gets there, to his age, I mean. So you can accelerate a child's ability to understand things and process information so much. And I'm bringing that up because, like, you don't have to put your kids in school. And I always emphasize, like, Max is not even 5 because he's, like, I guess, I'd have to look it up, but I'm not sure. Like, would he be going to would he technically be the age of going to kindergarten this year? He'd be 5 in October, so I don't know if he'd be this year or next year. I don't even know what ages those are anymore that you go to school and stuff. But, you know, maybe he'd be in pre-K at least or something. But it's like, there's a part of me that feels sick if I imagine putting him into school, just because of, like, it'd be like, okay, imagine right now you take a really thin, not thin, but like, you know, like a sheet of notebook paper, and you just put it right here on your fingertip and you just go, like, can you, like, imagine doing it right now? Like, actually imagine doing it to yourself. Like, can you feel that, right? Or like this part of your lip right here that connects right here, just imagine taking a pair of scissors and just going and clipping that. Imagine taking a nail and putting it into your bottom of your knee and just taking a hammer and just tapping it into that. What would that feel like? You could feel it. You could just, like, oh, no. Or if you're a guy, well, I'm not gonna go there. Imagine. It's like when I imagine, it's like I know what the consequence would be. Like, I imagine him sitting there in the classroom and just kind of being like, it's not even possible. Like, it's not even possible because we've explained to him what everything is. So he'd go into the room and he'd just be like, I know what this is. I know what we're doing here, and I'm not doing this. You know, or he might want to sit there for a moment and play along, and then he'd be like, okay, well, I'm ready to go now. Like, I'm done with this now. And they're going to be like, no. You keep sitting here until we tell you to leave. What? No, I'm ready to go now. I'm telling you, like, I'm ready to go. And then he would start persuading, and he would keep talking until he gets what he wants, and they would just eventually have to punish him. You know, because, and why don't we have to punish? Because we're not imposing some arbitrary fucking thing. Like, we have to go to bed every night, right? It's not every night at the same time. It's around the same time because that's generally when we start to just move into that natural cycle that we've set up. But there's no, like, okay, you get into bed right now or I'm gonna beat your ass or something. Like, that's what my parents would have done. There's no, it's like, okay, well, if we're just keep staying awake until 10 o'clock tonight, then that's what it is. Like, we're reading books and we're eventually falling asleep. Like, last night, both kids fell asleep. That's the first time ever for me that both kids fell asleep in the bed together with me reading. And it was when We had read a bunch, we had played a bunch, and it was just me and the kids. Katie was in the other room. And we played a bunch, and then I pulled out the second book from Narnia, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I just started reading it. And Max immediately was like, he like heard the story. He was like, hmm? Because I'd never read that one to him. But it was like, you know, talking about these kids, and they had to go to this house. And it was just describing the very beginning. He was like, hmm? And he's like, starts focusing. And then Seneca starts focusing. And then she just lays her head down on my chest, right here, like kind of laying like this, like I'm on the bed. And then she falls asleep. Max is still listening. I read the first 2 chapters, and then he's like, I'm tired now. So I closed the book, and I was already falling asleep too, but trying to like hold it up. And, or no, actually, no, yeah, it was definitely that book. And I turned off, because we had a book light, I turned that off. And then we went to sleep. And it was pretty cool. We have a king-size bed, so it's practical, like they can all sleep in there if they want to. But it's like, I'm not like, oh, I gotta get you guys up at 6 a.m. to get on the bus or to take you to school or whatever. It's like, no. We wake up when it starts to get light outside. Or sometimes I wake up at 5, sometimes I wake up at 6, sometimes I wake up at 7. Usually not much later than 7. Just depends if we were up really late, but generally not. And then I gotta go let the chickens out. And I just go over there, and then the chickens and the guineas, right? And then we have some baby chicks, and we feed them. And you know, we'll eventually get more animals and stuff like that, and there'll be more responsibility. But why would we put our kids in school? Why would we do that to them? Why would we do that to ourselves? Why would we do that to the world? Like the world, like don't listen to what people are telling you, like in the news or the teachers or anybody. Just look at it for yourself. Look at where the world is going. Automation, robotics, computers, information. Your children need to know how to communicate, how to read. I was joking with Katie because there was this book we found at the library, and it was this kid's book about like these kids who go to school, but everything in the school is the opposite of school, and the teacher likes it, right? And I haven't read the book, and I was like, oh, what, do like they teach him how to read? It's like, it's the one thing you actually don't learn in school. And people say like, oh no, I knew how to read. Yeah, if you're a really good reader, if you're like, you still read right now as an adult, I guarantee you learned to read before school. Guarantee you. And you might think, well, then why would anyone need second material? People can just learn to read from school. I learned to read before I went to school. My kids would have learned to read before they went to school, even if, you know, we weren't doing what we're doing. But not at the level they are now. Like Max can read that Narnia book himself. That's why he was so interested. I mean, think about it, guys. He's 4.5. And when I start reading Narnia, go look at the freaking book. It's not low vocabulary. He's like, oh, what's this? And he's like hanging on every word. And he's like asking me questions. Why did they do that? Why are they doing that? What is a fawn? Oh, so he has goat legs? Interesting. Like he's listening. And it's not a kid's book. And with Seneca, I'm reading to her, she's 2.5, almost 3. I'm reading to her the books that you would read to a 5 and 6-year-old. She doesn't want to read the little, hey guys, it's time for bed. Let's go run. Let's bump our heads, you know, or whatever the fuck. Like, she wants to read the book about rainforests, you know, and like what they are and the canopies. She keeps asking me, what's the canopy? Why is it called a canopy, you know? And what's that? Why is that tree frog? Why are his toes sticky, you know? Like all this stuff. Like she's way beyond. But we just build their vocabulary every day and we explain stuff. And my point is, they're going to have the ability to exercise freedom in their life beyond what the average adult right now can even comprehend, can even imagine. Because they have the building blocks, they have the vocabulary of understanding, and they will want to exercise freedom. They won't want to get jobs. Max is always talking about the businesses he's going to create when he's older. He's going to build a hotel with 1,000 floors, and he's going to build a fleet of rainbow Teslas. I mean, but they're not Teslas. They're just his own electric cars that are kind of like Teslas. And he's going to build these computers, and like he's always telling me all these different things, but that's because we've built his vocabulary. He understands. And as he gets older, he'll see more practically what is needed, and he'll focus on those things. And Oh, now he started making videos. I'm going to post some in the parenting group. So it's a secret, exclusive parenting group for TechnoTutor clients only, and only if you qualify, which means you're teachable, where we share a lot of behind the scenes with supporting the kids, educating the kids, how we educate them, how we parent them, things like that. And so if you're interested in that, you should, if you have TechnoTutor already, just reach out to your distributor and ask them about it. But if you don't have TechnoTutor, reach out to a distributor and ask them about TechnoTutor. Don't ask me about it. I don't want to fucking talk to you about it. I'm talking about it right now. Go find a distributor, right? But you can just go to the website and send in your contact info and we'll get it to a distributor if you just want to be lazy about it. Or you can go hunt one down on Facebook. You'll know because they'll be talking about what they're doing and how they're using it themselves and how their life is amazing because they're using it, right? And it's not just a sales pitch only. They're just telling you the truth, right? If you find a TechnoTutor distributor and they don't seem like they're growing, it's because they're not using it, right? It's rare. But it's like anything. You can go to the gym and not ever work out. Doesn't mean you're going to get any benefit. You actually have to exercise on the equipment. So if you have TechnoTutor and you're not seeing results, fucking use it every day. That's all I've done. I've used it every day, and then I've applied myself within what we're talking about right now, which is how can I exercise my freedom more? Not get a feeling of freedom. How can I exercise my freedom? Another way of saying that is, how can I take more responsibility? Safety and security will just lead you to the grave with a lot of regret, and you'll mostly just experience a lot of anxiety. If you look at where you can take more responsibility and you have the right tools, TechnoTutor, self-forgiveness writing, join Self-Perfected, self-perfected.com, or go to the Facebook page for Self-Perfected. You'll find all about all of those things. The whole point of Self-Perfected is to help you take self-development to the ultimate level, which is self-perfection, which is the exercise of responsibility. And the thing is, all of that will give you all those feelings of freedom that you're looking for. Just don't chase the feelings. Just exercise your freedom by taking responsibility. And then within that, you will create systems for yourself that will allow you to exercise freedom even more. And this is why we keep talking about creating a world that's best for all would imply everyone having their basic needs met, where government is here to serve and not to be the master. The problem with all the government programs and all that stuff that's there right now is they use the idea of safety and security and service to get more power. So it's like, hey, we need all this tax money because we need to give it away to people, but there's no education that goes along with it. There's no responsibility implied within it. So instead of thinking of it as like a government handout, because that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about government handouts. We're talking about creating a world that's best. It's just like I create a world for my family. Like I could be selfish. I could be one of these dads who's just like, it's all about me and I don't give a fuck about my family. It's not really a dad, I guess, but you know what I mean? A man who has kids. And just not fucking provide for them. Or I could provide everything that they need and have a really cool environment for them. So if, as human beings, we realized that our children can have a way cooler fucking global world environment if we could take more responsibility for supporting everyone else as well, those who at the moment can't support themselves because they don't have the vocabulary, they don't have the education. Create a world where you don't have to struggle for survival, where safety and security are not even a thought on your mind because it's just like, I have the education to do what I want to do, and I know how to be responsible within it. If everyone had what they needed, there wouldn't be any diseases of poverty. There wouldn't be all these crazy, weird fucking diseases coming out of these weird places because everyone would have a pretty awesome environment. And then we could actually, like, live here on this planet together. It's funny because as human beings, we it's like we're the only animal that doesn't actually fit in. We just try to dominate. But we end up dominating ourselves. We end up enslaving ourselves to systems. Instead of building systems that actually work for us, we build systems that work against us. All the shit that you're seeing, that all the desire that you have for safety and security is because of the systems that we've created. It's not because of the natural environment. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't work within the natural environment and make it work for us. Doesn't mean you just go live in the fucking jungle because you don't have any systems anymore. I'm not saying get rid of systems. I'm saying design them so that they're actually best for everybody. But right now, systems are designed, generally speaking, in ways that only benefit the 1%, the minority. And it's really the minority that rules this world. And they manipulate the majority, and they get majority consent. It's not even really majority consent because most people don't even vote that could. You just have to manipulate the majority of the people who vote. And even then, like in the US, they have electoral college and all kinds of systems that it's like everything can be manipulated. That's fucked. If everybody had an equally effective vocabulary, we could have an app where everyone just votes on everything at all times, and you'd be able to process the information. And there really wouldn't need to be that many laws. So it's like, oh, but there'd be like thousands of no, there wouldn't. You wouldn't need to like all day long be thinking about that shit. There would be very few things to decide about, really, collectively. And then individually, you'd have smaller governments, and you'd have smaller areas of responsibility that that responsibility maybe only extends out so far. But if everyone was educated, then we could actually trust each other. So the key to safety and security is actually freedom. It's actually responsibility. Safety and security is implied within that. But right now, people don't, that word safety is emotionally charged. It's being manipulated within us because we didn't have it when we were kids. We never felt safe and secure. We immediately felt like we were abandoned because somebody stuck us in daycare. And even the people who were like, well, I was with my kids and we gave them a great life and all this stuff. Yeah, but they ended up in jobs because they still didn't feel safe and secure. Because they knew if they didn't fucking go out and get a job, they wouldn't have a paycheck. And they didn't get the vocabulary and the education to be able to build a business and create systems. So, just watching this bird flying around the backyard. I don't know where you're at right now, but I'm just sitting here and I'm just feeling the breeze. And I'm hearing birds. And I'm seeing birds. And I'm seeing the crepe myrtle. I have a white crepe myrtle. It's got white flowers on it. It's just like swaying in the breeze. And there's this big tree right here. I think that's an oak tree. It's like massive. And every once in a while the breeze will come through and like leaves will just like flutter down like in the sunlight because it's like that part is not shaded, and so like you see all these leaves flutter. It's pretty cool. Every person should be able to wake up in the morning and be excited to be alive, to be like, all right, what am I going to do today? And to almost feel like there's not enough time to do everything I want to do today. But that's okay, because then just tomorrow I'll continue and I'll have tomorrow, and I'll do the rest, and I'll do more tomorrow. Like, you should be excited about your lack of time, not afraid. You can't live 60 years of your life to get to retirement age just so you can travel around in an RV and go look at fucking Yosemite and go to the beach. Like, live your life now. Back in the ancient times, men would die like when they were 30. Like, I would be like an old man now. In like the old times. Don't you want to actually be free? Actually live in a world that's best for all? I mean, why would you not want to? The only reason you wouldn't want to, as I said before, is because you don't know how to do it. There's a great video. I'm going to post a link to it in the description for this video from Mitch. Mitch Snyder. And it's called How to Create a World That's Best for All. And man, it's a great video. Gotta watch that video. He's got some really good videos lately. He's got the whole whiteboard thing figured out, man. It's really good. So go watch that video. I'm gonna turn it off, and I've got a meeting with somebody in a little bit. I've got another meeting with somebody in a little bit. And then I'm gonna spend the rest of the day with the kids and Katie. All right, see you guys.